stopping by the channel. My name's Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of New Jersey. This is season 12, episode 15, basically part 2 of the reunion. Let's get into it. So the episode opens up with Joe, dramatically walking off, talking about, I quit. And so Teresa's sitting there. Melissa's like chastising Teresa, talking about, you're demeaning him. Why did you have to say that? You always demean him. Which I'm like, okay, girl. And Andy's even like, yeah, well, you kind of, and Teresa's like, I'm not putting him down. Andy's like, you kind of are, because you called him, little bitch boy twice. Like, you kind of are demeaning him. And she's like, oh my God, whatever. So then Andy's like, go check on your brother. She was like, I always have to kiss his butt because I'm the oldest and make sure he's okay. So then while Joe is going to the back and Teresa is following him, we see all the guys like standing, asking Joe like what happened, which was weird to me that they didn't have like a little lounge area. Like when we see like Married to Medicine or even other Housewives franchises, if their husbands come, they normally have like a lounge area where they can see like a live feed of the reunion. But they were all asking like what's going on, and then they kind of exposed that like they heard what was going on, but I guess they didn't know like what led up to the point. It was weird to me because I was like, why aren't they able to like watch? So Joe was like telling Louis, don't go out there and defend yourself. My sister is a scumbag. Like, she's annoying. She's a moron. I can't stand her. I'm tired. And everyone's like, Joe, you not quitting. Like, everybody knows Joe is being dramatic. Like, at this point, nobody like really like, I think everyone's just trying to placate him, but they know he not going nowhere. Like, this is their bread and butter. Like, get over it. Like, we're all looking at Joe. I'm looking at Joe like, bro, get over it. Get over it. I meant to say this in the beginning, but Wendy, prayers to Wendy Williams. But Michael Rappaport is like hosting her show right now. Well, in the comment sections, Joe and Teresa actually like Teresa apologized again to Joe, and I guess they on good terms. But I didn't think it was worthy to like do a little blurb about it before the episode, because it's the same thing. I'm like beyond, like, I'm not even frustrated with the whole Joe versus Teresa thing anymore. I'm just annoyed with it, because I feel like if I was frustrated, that would mean like I care more about it. Like, I want there to be a resolution, but I'm like beyond that. Like, I don't care no more. Either y'all are like, I've come to the realization, like, if they're gonna work it out. If you're not, just have a cordial relationship. Stop trying to push this whole narrative that like we're this close because we're blood, because it's clear as day that y'all aren't. Like, y'all are very much co-workers. When it's time to film, y'all film together. When it's not time to film, y'all probably don't even say anything to each other. Y'all might check in every few months, but other than that, I definitely don't believe y'all have a relationship like I do with my sister, where we're texting or checking in on each other every day or every other day. Y'all don't give that. So, Melissa is acting like she's over it while she's sitting on the couch. And I'm like, girl, this is your bread and butter. Calm down. So, like I said, Joe is in the back sulking. You got Joe Benigno going back there and like, Joe, talk to me. Like, what's going on? Doing his duties so he can get, siphon the information to give back to his overseer, Margaret. I'm playing, y'all. So he goes over there and he's like, Joe, like, what's wrong? And he's like, nah, she said this, this, and this. And then Louis like, what's up? And Joe was like, Louis, like, if you go out there, don't say nothing, don't defend yourself, because if you do, you in women's business and you're a bitch. And Teresa goes back there, and this is where I get frustrated with Teresa, and it also shows like Teresa's vocabulary, because I got what Teresa meant. I got where Teresa was trying to go, but she doesn't have the vernacular to like eloquently or even like basically say what she want to say. Basically, like, honestly, what she was saying was like, dude, to me, you are in women's business. Like, you jumped in it with Jennifer. Like, you jumped in it with Jennifer, and now like when you should have been in women's business, Like you shouldn't have been in that beef between Jennifer and Melissa, but you should have been in the beef between me and Margaret, telling Margaret to shut up because I'm your sister. So I think Teresa was just kind of like, you are in women's business, but you're not in the right women's business. You're not in my business. You're in other businesses such as Melissa, which he could be in that. But I was with Jennifer when Jennifer was sitting on the couch saying, like, if he gonna argue with us, then he has to be able to take what people say. And that's true. If you're going to argue with someone, whether it be male, female, and anybody in between, whoever identifies as anything else, you have to be ready for the repercussions or the rebuttals people give you. And I think that Joe, they caught, like, you can tell, because I've been watching New Jersey, like, since season, like, I was off and on season 1 because I wasn't really into reality TV growing up. But as I got older, I started to like it more. And ever since Joe and Teresa have been on this show together, you can tell that the family coddled Joe. Like, there was definitely a lot of times where Teresa was wrong, but there was times where Joe was like, he's used to people just like placating him, and when Teresa wouldn't do it, he would get angry. And I feel like, although I don't like Joe Giudice was like the only person that wouldn't placate Joe. And that's what pissed him off the most. It's like, Joe Giudice would fight with him. Nobody else would fight with Joe. Everyone would just be like, it's whatever, bruh. You can have it. So Joe was like, you know, we've been arguing like for 11 years. I just want us to be good. I feel like they were coming to an understanding because Teresa apologizes. And then I also have to give credit to Joe. When Louis was back there with them, Joe said, Louis, did not tell you to speak up. Like, are you scared of them? And Louis was like, no. He was like, then speak up. If you don't have nothing to hide, then speak up. I'm not going to tell Margaret to shut up because he's a grown man and he should be able to speak up. And I think that's true. Like, he shouldn't have to tell Margaret to shut up. I would say he should have told Margaret, like, girl, you tap dancing on my sister's last nerve. Let it go. But I don't think it was his job to, like, constantly interject every time. Louis is a grown man, and a lot of the things that people have been bringing up, because Andy even said, Andy was like, even if Margaret didn't bring it up, Teresa, we would have talked about it because it's out there. And that's true. That's definitely true. And Teresa was like, but Margaret is posing like she's my friend, and if you're my friend, you wouldn't do this. And I got where Teresa was coming from, where she's like, I already told her to let it go and she wouldn't let it go. Then I get that. But you can't keep blaming everything on Margaret when it's out there. It's like, that's just true tea. It's out there. So she apologizes to Joe. I did think that, like, Melissa be messing up the vibe because it was kind of like calming down, and then Melissa comes back there and she's like, don't let what she got to say agitate you. We're family. Get back out there. And I'm like, Melissa, they were calming down. Everybody was coming out. Like, there did need to be you interjecting. Like, if you wanted to interject and have this discussion, you should have walked out there you should have walked off with your husband first. And then y'all could have the three of y'all could have had this conversation. I did like how Louis told Teresa, like, something you said had to trigger him. Like, you triggered him. Even though you didn't mean it that way, you triggered him. And for that credit, I give Louis slightly some credit in the sense that, like, Louis has he has way, not even slightly, he has way more emotional intelligence than Teresa. And what he said was true. No matter, even if you didn't mean to say those things to hurt him, it still hurt him and it triggered him. So you should apologize. Like, that's what it is. That's what it is. Although I'm the type of person, like, I'm not apologizing if I don't mean it. Because then the apology don't mean nothing. But that's just me. So while all of that is happening, you got Margaret and Jackie trying to have, like, this heart-to-heart with Jennifer. So Jackie starts it, and Jackie's like, you know, Jackie was like, Jennifer, when you're not around Teresa, we have these moments. And she was just like, I don't understand why you want to hurt me. And Jennifer was like, I don't want to hurt you. And then she was like, but you were digging. And Jennifer said, that was before we started to get cool. And this was what annoys me about Jackie is, like, you know that y'all all out there looking for information. Y'all are all out there looking for information. Y'all aren't friends. You're friends with Margaret, who you know be digging, or who has information on everybody. So why does, like, I don't know. It just annoyed me because I'm just like, Jackie, if you don't want to be friends with her, then don't be friends with her. But stop trying to act like all of y'all don't be sifting for information to like throw at each other when it's like when you have the time to. Y'all aren't that cool like that. So then Jennifer, supposedly they're like, Jennifer acts differently when Teresa's around, and they're like, it's a dictator friendship. And Jennifer's like, no, it's not. But I can slightly give the other group credit that it does seem like Jennifer switches up when she's around Teresa. And that might be because she feels like she's closer to Teresa, or she knows Teresa is an ally versus the rest of the ladies who seem to be clicked up against her. Because they only go but so far with Teresa, but they'll take it there with Jennifer because they know it's the Teresa show. But they'll take it, but they won't come at Jennifer. They won't come at Teresa as hard as they could when they come at Jennifer, if you get what I mean. And then it's the Dolores segment. And y'all, I don't care to hear about Paulie. I really don't. Unless he's going to be featured on the show for season 13, I don't really care to hear about him. But we talk about Dolores' mom's health. It seems like she's getting better, so that's wonderful because y'all know the lady had like, I think a 90% blockage in her heart, which means that like almost all her valves was closed. But she's doing better. We find out that Frank is living with David. I guess he's doing more construction work, so he chose to live with David. But it seems like they kicked Frank out because since Dolores is getting real close with Polly, she didn't think it was right for Frank to be living there. But Frank is living with David. I feel like, I don't care. It just seems like David and Frank probably have a better relationship because their personalities are different. But it seems that Paulie and Frank are like two sides of the same coin. He seems like a big juice head, and Frank seems like Frank is a big juice head. So they probably butt heads all the time. We find out that one of Louis' exes, and I think I remember telling y'all that one of Louis' exes is dating David. But I don't even think you can call that lady an ex because they were saying that they were only together for 2 months. And everybody was trying to make it like a big deal, as in to make it seem like they were together for 2 years. But I was like, it was 2 months. That's 8 weeks. That's not a long time in the realms of dating. Like, y'all are still meeting each other's representatives. Like, so I didn't think that was that big of a deal. They asked her, which I thought was a nice question, when they were like, what has dating David and Frank taught you? And she was like, you know, with Frank, I realized there's life after him, and I could do, like, you know, there's life after everything. With David, I realized I stayed in there too long, and I should have left when I needed to. Because I forgot that they had been together for 5 years. That's a long time. And we all knew Dolores still wanted to be, like, Dolores wanted to be married, and she wanted David to be in there more or show up more for her, but he's too dedicated to his career, which is a good thing as a doctor, but as someone's significant other that wanted more, not a good thing. So then they asked, like, oh, do you think he's gonna is Paulie gonna be a part of the show? And she was like, I don't know yet. You know, we signed up for this. I don't know if he's ready to get destroyed. And then Teresa slides in there like, you know, y'all tried to destroy my man. And I was like, Teresa, no one tried to destroy your man. It's like, the stuff was out there. The stuff was out there. Let it go. Let it go. And it's like, it's annoying because she's hell-bent on trying to make it seem like Margaret put these stories out there. But it's like, no, they're out there. I get where Teresa's coming from, where she's like, if Margaret's supposed to be my friend, and I've told you multiple times, like, dead it, stop talking about my man, let it go, I don't want this on the show, then Margaret should have did that. But Margaret didn't do that. So I get her frustrations with Margaret, but to put all this emphasis on Margaret being like the main reason all of this is out there is stupid, because it's out there because his exes are putting it out there. So then they talk about motherhood. They do like a mashup of motherhood, like all the ladies with their kids. We found out Rihanna praised Teresa's parenting, so she was feeling, you know, spunky about that. They then talk about Jennifer, I guess, slamming Margaret about sending her kids away. So it was like an article where it was like Jennifer slams Margaret, parenting, criticizing Margaret because she put her kids in camp so that she could go spend the summers in the Hamptons. And Jennifer's rebuttal to that was like, I don't even let my kids sleep out the home. So we all have different parenting. Margaret liked to say I wasn't a poster child for stay-at-home moms. So I feel like it's fair game. And I do too. It's like, that's the only thing that makes me annoyed with the other ladies, is like, they can say slick stuff to Jennifer or say but then when Jennifer cuts back or she goes an extra step, then it's an issue. Like, no, like, if we gonna talk, we can talk. Like, if y'all gonna talk about me, I'm going to talk about you. And you just have to be ready for the response or the rebuttal that happens. I just think that's the reason why I don't like to go with the other side, is because y'all do just the same thing as Jennifer does, but then y'all get so butthurt when she cuts you deep. And it's like, don't start with the lady. So then I did like how Andy asked Melissa about, like, why did you move your kids just for your two sons' football team? Because it's funny to me how Margaret's always harping on, like, women power, women empowerment, women's rights, all that stuff. But it's your friend down that sits down this couch with you who is just as misogynistic as you could say Jennifer is. Melissa uprooted her family based off of her two sons playing football. And it's not like they're in high school trying to get to a university. They don't even look like they're in middle school. So that's wild to me. Like, we wanted to put them in a good, like, you know, I guess it's like the area has, like, you know, football. Y'all know, like, there's certain teams that you can get on or try out for that aren't associated with school that can still vibe well for kids to get into, like, competitive schools with athletic programs and stuff like that. So I'm just looking at them like, y'all should check your friend, because they treat Antonia differently. They do, and it's mainly because she has a vagina and she can get pregnant. They like you can see it. And I'm just looking at Margaret like, for someone who harps so much about women's empowerment, check your misogynistic friend down the couch. Check her. But I guess they said that her and Antonia are in a better place and the girl actually forgave her mom. But okay. So then they get to Margaret and Jennifer. And this part is when I said I was proud of. I will say Jennifer did not annoy me that much this episode. But I was proud. There was moments in there I was just like, get Jennifer. Because they asked Margaret about her stepchildren or how she's doing. Because we all know the relationship is strained because of the whole infidelity thing. So she lets us know between her and Joe, they have 6 kids. And it seems like there's only like 1 or 2 kids who still is kind of like standoffish or their relationship is still strained. So Jennifer hops in and she's like, but kids are resilient. They can go to therapy. And I said, sorry it. And mind you, Margaret tried to dress it up and be like, well, I was trying to console you. It wasn't the right way to say it. And I'm like, Margaret, if you know what you said was wrong, I think you should apologize. That's my thing. I think, like I just said, apologize. Like, I only apologize when I mean it, but I also apologize if I know, even if I don't mean it. Dang, Leah, like, you was wrong for saying that. So you should say you're sorry. And even if I feel justified in what I did, if it was wrong, it's wrong. And what Margaret said was wrong. And the reason why I took issue with Margaret when she said it is because last season 11, you spent the whole entire season talking about how messed up your mom did as a job parenting you, that you wrote a book about it. But you're someone in there, like, I think Margaret's like in her mid-50s, probably early 60s or something like that. And I'm just kind of like, you're still dealing with that. So it's like, how can you be so like flippant to say such a comment when it's like, you still got issues with your mama? So I just felt like Margaret should just say, you know what? I'm sorry. I ain't mean it like that. Because she just said, well, I did it. It was in poor taste. It was, but you should still say, I'm sorry to Jennifer. So then they asked Teresa about her and Gia. They caught Teresa in a lie because Teresa, they said, how does Gia feel about you moving in with Louie? And she was like, she's good. She's happy for us, blah, blah, blah. But there were some concerns. And Teresa tried to say, well, it's because this is the only guy I've been with after her father. And Andy's like, you sure it wasn't because of the allegations? And she's like, no. And Andy's like, girl. And so when they rolled back the footage, it's clear as day that that's what she was worried about. And I'm like, Teresa, I didn't like Jennifer saying that the exes were bitter. And like, well, the thing is, like, they could be bitter, but they might have a right to be bitter, because it's like this person allegedly harmed you, and now he's doing fine. He's doing better than you, or he gets to parade around like he's such this great guy when you never got closure from the things that he did to you. So I can give them credit to that. But then for Teresa to stand up and do that corny spin with the whole Snow White thing, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all, I was like, Teresa, sit down. Sit down. And this is who y'all be going up for. Sit down. And I was glad that Jennifer told her to calm down, because Jennifer knew it was corny. Jennifer was like, girl, calm down. Because you know, if I would have did that, you would have told me to calm down. So calm down. Sit down. I was like, yeah, that was lame. That was lame. That was like, I shouldn't even have mentioned it, because it was that lame. Like, it wasn't even worthy of a, like, oh, that was iconic. But I did think it was funny when she said, if Louis was dating Margaret, they probably wouldn't say nothing. And I think that is true, because Margaret isn't the star of the show. Teresa is. Whether you like it or not, Teresa is. We talk about Jackie's eating disorder, and I'm happy with the updates that she gave us. She says she's eating normal now, which I know had to be extremely hard for her. She's gained weight, which is good. She got rid of her measuring spoon, which is wonderful. They asked her about, and she's not eating the same thing. So she's making extremely, like, good progress. They also talked about, like, why she doesn't open up to Evan, and she was like, it's embarrassing. And I also think it's, like, the weird thing is, like, she's doing these things for herself, but also Evan, because she wants to be attractive to her husband, or she wants this aesthetic in her head. And it's like, you don't want him to know, like, all your tricks, in a sense. Because I remember growing up, I think I saw, like, a documentary. It was about, like, the makeup industry or something like that, or something about, like, a pinup woman, where it was like, you don't want, you're taught that men shouldn't know all your tricks or how you become beautiful. And I think that might be where she was coming from, in a sense, when it comes to Evan. It's like, you want to seem perfect to your significant other because you think that they're perfect and wonderful, and you want to be just as that to them. So, but I'm glad that she is with Evan, because Evan seems to be very understanding and wanting the best for her. We also talk about, I thought it was crazy when they talked to her about when she would eat out with the ladies, and she would only allow herself to eat 2 meals a week, like, when going out with them. And if she didn't eat, like, if she did eat before, then she would, like, half it. And I was like, that is no way to live. That is such a horrible way to live. I thought it was interesting when she, like, not interesting. There seems to be, like, genuine care between Jennifer and Jackie. It's like, but because they're on feuding fractions, they only go but so far with each other. Because when she started crying, Jennifer looked like sad for her. And then when she said she got rid of the measuring spoons, there was a slight smile, like, on her face, like she was happy for her. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I think they care about each other, but because they're on opposing teams, they can only show up but so much. They then ask about fat shaming, and they bring up the whole thing with Margaret. So Jennifer again chimes in, and she was like, y'all don't be fat shaming me. She was like, you called me, you said I was no lightweight. And then they tried to dress it up, and Dolores was getting on my nerves, because Dolores tried to help Margaret, but it was like, no, there's no way you can call somebody a lightweight when it refers to drinking, when you're saying in the after show, we couldn't hold her up. That has nothing to do with being a lightweight when it comes to drinking. Y'all were talking about the lady being heavy. And then on top of that, I was actually surprised that they showed the tweet of Jennifer when she posted, if you watch what you eat, you wouldn't need to get lipo every week. Hashtag just saying, hashtag RHONJ. And I'm like, see, that's why I can't, because Jackie was like, we both were going back and forth. So I'm like, if y'all were both going back and forth, we're not going to sit here and chastise just one person, even though Teresa was wrong about fat shaming when you all have fat shamed each other. Like, that's what I can't get with. Y'all do things, but then when it gets thrown back at you, all of a sudden it's like I'm in distress and like you're a horrible person. No, like you did those things. Like, and you look at Jackie funny because it's like, ma'am, you have a whole eating disorder. You wouldn't want nobody commenting on your weight. Then you shouldn't comment on nobody else's weight. But I was just like, you know what? You lucky. You lucky. The only time, like, the only time someone has came at Jackie weight has been Teresa when they was arguing and Teresa said, eat bread. Like, she said, you need to go eat some bread. Nobody else said anything. Jennifer hasn't even gone there, where she could go there if she felt like it. But she hasn't, because I think like I said, she slightly cares for Jackie. Then they start talking about the whole, like Teresa talking about Margaret's butt jiggling. That's how you know minority group. I'm glad I'm black, because someone saying your booty jiggling when you're black or any other minority that, like, you know, we like a little jiggle. That wouldn't have been offensive. But I know in the white community, that is. So Teresa apologized. It was like a half-ass apology, but she apologized. And then the whole ruining, the whole food thing happened when they were like, you ruined my night because I didn't get to eat. And then Margaret was like, no, you ruined your night. And then Teresa said, no, you ruined it. And I was like, oh, this is petty. This is petty and this is annoying. And they were just yelling back and forth, telling each other to shove. It was childish. It was so childish. So then someone asked about surgery. And y'all know in my last video, when I was talking about, like, Andy doesn't like Jennifer. You can tell in this this reunion, like, he is biased, because every time Jennifer tried to do something where she was going to get the other team or get one of the ladies he's cool with, he tried to shut it down. I keep saying, I also don't like that he keeps harping on her surgeries when it's like you sit between Margaret and Dolores. Dolores got her whole body redone. It looked good though. She got a tummy tuck and her booty done. It looks great. Margaret has gotten them lips done, probably a facelift, and them titties done. And she looks good. So why do we constantly have to ask Jennifer about it? And Jennifer say, look, I got a tummy tuck. I have 5 kids. My breasts were saggy. I had 5 kids and I breastfed. And I got a nose job. She was like, I like the way my booty is. I'm good to go. And I'm just like, yeah, leave it alone. Like, I'm sick of them asking her about that. Like, I'm really like, it's annoying. It's annoying. It really is. So the last part of the episode was about Margaret and Jennifer. Get into it. Like I said, Jennifer and Margaret's whole situation comes up. So they start to question about the whole infidelity. They do the whole, you know, footage and showing everything. So Andy asked her, like, he was like, you really checked her about, like, the state, like, you know, Margaret's statement about Bill had an affair and with a nurse or something. You said no, it was a pharmaceutical rep. And Jennifer's whole thing was like, if she was going to air me out, I needed her to come correct. And they were like, well, what did Bill say? And she was just like, Bill wasn't speaking. He was embarrassed. I was doing most of the talking as usual. And Margaret was mad that Jennifer, like, forgave him or something. She was just like, you forgave your husband, but you couldn't forgive me. And Jennifer was like, no, I was mad at him. I forgave him. I was mad at you and I forgave you. I'm allowed to, like, forgive people and move forward. So then they talk about the affair. And Jennifer was like, she swears she didn't know that anybody knew. Margaret was like, everybody knew about the affair. I even knew about it before you got on the show. Because she said something about, like, they knew you. They were like, oh, this is a girl. She was married to this plastic surgeon. And he had an affair. So then it's revealed, like, through Melissa. It said they had, like, an article. It was like, it's very relatable for a lot of women. Melissa Gorga revealed she knew about Bill's affair before it was on Real Housewives of New Jersey. So it seems like everybody knew about it. Even people on Twitter were like, who I guess knew the lady who had an affair with Bill, was like, she was telling everybody once they got on the show. So a lot of people knew about it. I guess in Jennifer's mind, when she says nobody knew, I guess she was pertaining to, like, her community and her people, not like everybody outside of their community. Because Jennifer is Turkish, so they probably have, like, a very close-knit, like, circle in that area and they didn't know. So I guess that was her thing. She was like, they didn't know, my family didn't know. So I assume nobody knew. I guess she didn't think I guess she thought the lady would be ashamed and not walk around town gleefully telling people she had an affair with a married man, but that wasn't the case. So she was saying, so then Andy chimes in and he's like, well, you know, I've been doing this for 16 years. And I tell everybody, like, you know, if you're going to come on here, if you have anything to hide, you might as well let us know or it's going to come out. And Jennifer said her and Bill agreed that if it did come out, they were going to deny it, but she didn't do it. She was like, why should I deny it? Like, it happened. So she let it out. And she was like, I think for her it was empowering to let it out because she was like, at least now they know. Because that might be like the only skeleton that Jennifer has in her closet compared to everybody else. Or this might be the biggest skeleton that she has in her closet. So she was like, honestly, I was more worried about how my kids were going to deal with it. And she was just like, my oldest son, like, he didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to process it. My oldest daughter, she was like, it seems like the girls were more affected than the boys. But Jennifer was like, well, my kids are going to look at me and lead by example. If I leave, like they were worried if we were going to get a divorce, if we were going to leave daddy. But if I let them know I'm okay and we've processed this, then we'll be okay. So then Andy asks everybody, like, would you leave somebody over infidelity? And Teresa and Jackie are the only ones that like raised their hand. And they pretty much have the same like take on it. Like, I don't know if I could trust you. And once that happens, the trust is gone. And Teresa was like, yeah. So they agreed on that. So then it gets to Jennifer and Melissa. And this is what I've been waiting for. When Jennifer pulls out them big blown out screenshots of Instagram. Because y'all know I did this last year on one of my videos, like for the drama videos, where they were going back and forth on Twitter. Not on Twitter, on Instagram. And I'll put like a screenshot of what the videos like, well, you know, I might put the caption in the thing. You know what? I'll figure out what I'm going to do. But like I told y'all, Melissa started it. Melissa started the beef. And like, I heard, you know, the diva's name in my head where she was like, start from the beginning. Shout out to Erica De Niro. But like, that's what has been bothering me about this whole beef between Melissa and Jennifer about the whole cricket comment. We're not going to act like there wasn't a news article posted or a news like story about your husband stealing people's photos. Like the lady did not post them on IG that Joe took her photos of her house and tried to say he remodeled an old home to look like her home. Like what are we talking about? Your man's crooked. He's fraudulent. Like, let's not play these games. And I also didn't like how everyone tried to act like Jennifer just out the blue, like just straight up like abracadabra type was like, oh, I'm just going to attack Melissa. No, Melissa started it on her page. Jennifer did a rebuttal on her page. Then Melissa hopped down in them comments on Jennifer's page and got ate up by Jennifer. And I'm just like, start from the beginning. Start from the beginning. And then we find out that she was arguing back and forth with them while she had, like, after she got her face done, you know, her nose and stuff done. And she said, true. She was like, oh, you want sympathy for your elective surgery. And Jennifer's like, yeah. She like, I was dealing with surgery. And y'all was on here talking about me. Like, excuse me. She was like, and it doesn't matter that y'all didn't know. Like, why were you talking trash? And I was like, get them together, Jennifer. I had to give her kudos because that annoyed me the whole entire season. Is Jennifer's like, oh, it's called a social media war, baby. Then if we're in war, there's no rules to war. You win by any means necessary. And if crooked family hits you in your chest, then let it hit you. Cause you know that's what's up. You know that's what's up with your man. So stop it. Stop it. And I'll give some shots to Melissa. We know half the stuff that you sell, like that fake knockoff Gucci and Versace you had in your boutique, and Gucci and Versace had to tell you to chill out. Like, okay, Melissa. Okay, Melissa. So then Melissa said something about like Jennifer being fake. They pop up another article where it says Melissa Gorga says Jennifer's aid is not authentic. Says Jennifer is putting it Jennifer says she's putting it all out there, which she has compared to everybody else. So then we get back to Margaret versus Jennifer. And this had me dying because they start talking about the whole hypocrite conversation. And I still don't think Jennifer is a hypocrite. I think she was being hypocritical, but I don't think she's a hypocrite because at the end of the day, Bill was the one that cheated. Bill cheated. It would be different if Bill was the one attacking Margaret, but Bill hasn't said anything. So you could call Bill a hypocrite, but you could say Jennifer was being hypocritical in the sense that her man cheated and you're looking down upon me and you chose to stay with him. So then Jennifer, and then the thing about it was like, Margaret was like, you said horrible things about me. And I'm just kind of like, y'all said horrible things about each other. You called her a concubine last season. You called her a mail-order bride. She called you a slut. Like, either way, y'all said very distasteful things about each other. So it's like y'all both have been horrible. Then Margaret starts to say, like, about the joke that she says she's been saying horrible things about me on the after show. And it was like something you said that she repeated. You said it. You made the joke and she repeated it. So be mad at yourself. Because Margaret made a joke last season where she was like, where Melissa was talking about how when she had sex with Joe, what she said? Oh, when she had sex with Joe, he had like the first time they had a bed of roses. When Joe and Margaret had sex, he talked about how he had to go take a shower to wash the smell of her off of him while he went back to his wife. So on the after show, Jennifer was like, you can't tell me that's not taboo for you to be like, oh, my man had to go wash the stench of me off of him after we had sex for the first time so he could go back to his wife. And I'm looking at Margaret like, she was like, it was a joke. Okay. And the joke could still be used against you. You said it. So what are we talking about? So then Margaret gets upset. Then they're harping on the whole word stench versus smell. Whatever, lady. It's the same thing. Then Melissa tries to chime in and talk about, we're arguing about mail or bride when people have been called whore, slut, and anything worse. I was like, Melissa, shut up. Shut up. Hush. So then she tries to spin the narrative, which I was glad Jennifer pointed out, that she was like, you always get mad at the woman. You're not mad at your husband. And Jennifer was like, I was mad at both of them. And then they bring up how Jennifer tried to get the lady fired from her pharmaceutical job. And Jennifer was like, yeah, and I do it again. And then Margaret was like, she could have had her family. And Jennifer's like, she didn't have one. And if she did, I don't care. I said, see, I'm not even mad. And then what really got me is when Jennifer said it could have been a man and I still would have did the same thing. I said, Jennifer, I said, let them know. I was like, I was proud of her. When she said that, she said it could have been a man and I still would have got him fired. I said, say it. Y'all trying to spin it like you want us to feel bad for the mistress. A mistress. We mad at both of them. Bill shouldn't have cheated. And the lady who knew for a fact that man was married, she shouldn't have cheated with him. She should have had more self-respect. And Bill should have had more self-respect for his wife and himself to not get in bed with somebody that wasn't his wife. So either way, both of them are trash. What are you talking about, Margaret? What are you talking about? So then Margaret gets mad and she was like, we could have been friends. And then Jennifer was like, I didn't trust you for us to be bonding over this. Like, and I'm like, why would you want to bond over that? You cheated on your husband and I got cheated on. That is nothing I want to bond with anybody with. And then Dolores is on the side, was like, you see how she treated her friends. You see how she and I'm like, Dolores, shut up. And because Jennifer was like, you hurt me, so I'm allowed to treat you that way. I said, shut up, Dolores, shut up. So then Jennifer was like, it was taboo. And then at the end, like the whole situation, like you gloated about it. That's taboo to me. So then Andy gets in his feelings, decides to stand up and say, everybody shut up. And then he sits down. And then the episode ends like that. And then we're going into part 3 and then we should be done. So what are your thoughts? Did y'all enjoy this episode on this part? I like this part more. Mainly because Jennifer wasn't annoying me. And y'all know That's my fave on this show. Not saying my fave overall, but I like her the most out of all the ladies. So I was disappointed in the way she was acting in part 1, but she kind of redeemed herself in this part 2. But let me know your thoughts below. And I'm out, y'all. Oh, I didn't say it. Remember to be bravely authentic. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.